Hey guys, it's Luke here from LT Gaming and I'm back, and today I have a very special video for you. I am introducing or doing a preview of SGS NATO's Nightmare. This is going to be the latest release in the SGS series, and this is of course a series I've done a review on in SGS Taipings, and also I have done a playthrough of the Halls of Montezuma, which was my first experience of Avalon Digitals series. And I have to say, these games have really blown me away and I'm really happy to feature them. So first off, before we start, if you are new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We really need your support as a small channel. And also, if you're an existing viewer or you're just passing through, hit the like button, as it really demonstrates that we're making the right types of videos and helps push us as a small, growing and very passionate channel. All of your support is greatly appreciated by me and Tom, so make sure to come along for the ride. Right, let's jump right in and introduce SGS NATO's Nightmare as the latest in the series of games from this really cool studio. Basically, you're looking at a fictional conflict between the Warsaw Pact and NATO in the mid-1980s. You have to study the Titanic conflict and the incredible theatre that it takes part in across Germany and Central Europe. Will you be able to achieve your goals without escalating into an uncontrollable nuclear conflict? And yes, they do model tactical nuclear weapons in this game, which is quite exciting, and a first for Avalon Digitals series. What sets this installment apart from the other SGS games is the subject matter. I think it has a very broad appeal and will excite a lot of wargamers. Some of the other games in the series are quite niche, like Montezuma, taking part in the Mexican-American conflict, and then Haya Safari, which is absolutely excellent by the way, and I will do a video on that game, taking part in Africa during World War I. These aren't conflicts that are very well known. Even their latest title, SGS Taipings, takes part in the Taiping Rebellion, which, while an absolutely huge historical event, isn't that well known in the West. However, fictional conflict between NATO and the Warsaw Pact in the mid-1980s is going to have a broad appeal. So I think this is a real chance for SGS Games to penetrate the market and get their name out there. So it's a big opportunity for the studio. I've been talking to Laurent, who, by the way, is an absolute gentleman and the developer for this game, and he describes it as a monster game. You have around 2,400 counters, and that is quite a lot for SGS. That's several dozen hours just for the campaign. And it's very complex. There is the air element, there is the sea, the land, tactical nuclear weapons, and many different types of unit. As discussed, air, sea and land dimensions are all represented in detail, and there are a lot of new concepts within this version of SGS. So for example, electronic warfare is new to the series, tactical nuclear weapons are new to the series. To give an idea of the complexity and the change compared to the other games, a battle phase in this version can extend to over 26 rounds, including maneuvers, infiltrations, rounds specific to certain units, and the action of Soviet forward operational detachments. It's absolutely a monster, as Laurent described. There is a very detailed backstory to the game, in essence of how this fantasy scenario has played out, with the underlying premise being that Gorbachev is removed early during his reign of the USSR, and paranoia and miscommunication takes place, leading to a conventional conflict between NATO and the Warsaw Pact, which has the potential to turn nuclear. One of the cool features within NATO's Nightmare is the ability to play both a basic and advanced version. If you want a streamlined experience and are moving from more simplified wargames, you can pick the basic version of the scenario and have a much more concise experience. However, if you want to play the monster version, you will have almost 3,000 counters in play and all the advanced gameplay options and mechanisms to work with. I think this is a really cool option for people who are looking to get into wargames or maybe are transitioning over to the SGS series. The game will come with a complete campaign and a number of shorter scenarios. This is typical of SGS, and to be honest, the length of the game is never really an issue. You can tie yourself into a campaign that can take up to 50 hours, and I think given the complexity of the mechanics within this one, you certainly are going to have a very long wargaming experience. So I don't think longevity is going to be an issue. Sometimes though, you want to jump in to a more faster experience, and I'm hoping that The campaigns, as outlined with an intermediate campaign and different scenarios, will give you the chance to jump in and jump out. But to be honest, with SGS games like Haya Safari, I normally play 5 or 6 turns and then save my game and come back to it. With the new gameplay mechanics seen in NATO's Nightmare that haven't featured in other SGS games, I think the gameplay within this one is going to be absolutely stellar. I have got my hands on it for maybe 2 hours so far in the beta and test version, and I'm having a huge amount of fun moving around my Air Force, and the extra detail involved in the battles is really, really good. Now, of course, this is the SGS series, so you're dealing with dice and cards, and some people aren't keen on that. And to be honest, before I came to these games, I would have been like that myself, but what I've come to realise is that all war games really have some sort of calculation going on, and the SGS series just puts that in your face. Of course, being a war game, you will spend much of your time managing the movement and manoeuvres of your troops, the organisation of aviation, HQ and all kinds of support. You will have to deal with breakthroughs, exploitations and establish logistics networks, all of which can be destroyed by enemy deep strike bombers. There are also many other gameplay aspects in NATO's Nightmare, such as special forces, chemical warfare and tactical nuclear strikes. This is a first for the series, and I think really takes it forward to be an excellent simulation of a what-if scenario. Replayability is an important factor in any game, and in NATO's Nightmare, this is considerable. You have the starting options that allow the NATO player to adopt alternative deployments, secretly mobilise territorial forces, use huge amounts of cards, begin defensive positions, and play the game any way that you like. This is really welcome, and I look forward to trying different scenarios in a trial and error type of way to see if I can defeat the enemy. Likewise, the replayability for the Warsaw Pact will be extremely good because you have vast land and air forces available to you at the start of the scenarios, and how you apply these resources to taking on NATO will change each time you play. Another cool factor in this game is that while NATO's Nightmare takes place in Europe, events will happen around the rest of the world that affect your game. The player witnesses it, receives the positive effects, or suffers the negative consequences, and must adapt his strategy to deal with it. This gives the game another layer of replayability and randomness that will make each playthrough different. The visuals in the game are built upon the SGS engine, which is an evolution of the War Across the Worlds engine, and I think look exceptional across most of the games in the series. The unit cards are just absolutely beautiful to look at, and I really enjoy this time period looking at different aircraft, vehicles, planes and ships. It's a real treat for the wargamer. Now, for the first time in this game, there is the ability to add a more professional appearance using NATO symbols, and I think a lot of wargamers will appreciate this option. Like the other games in the SGS series, the sound effects really do a good job in the game. I particularly enjoy the sound effect of the aircraft moving. I think it's very well done, and it does borrow a lot of sound effects from other games in the series. But one thing the SGS series does absolutely amazing is the musical soundtracks. There are some really rocking tracks in this one, and I enjoyed the 1980s vibe. Now, this is only a preview of the game, but I'm going to point out my main concern, and that is so far the performance. I've discussed this with Laurent himself, and I've demonstrated that the game during the card phase drops for me to around 15 frames per second, and that does provide a little bit of frustration. Now, as soon as you move out of the card phase, it runs completely smoothly. I do hope they can maybe tweak the engine or reduce the load of the cards in the game, because that will provide a much more streamlined experience. And I haven't seen that in any other SGS games yet. So that is my one caveat so far, is that I would make sure you have 16 gigabytes of RAM. I may even have to upgrade to 32 to make this run smoothly. But hopefully they can tweak the engine to provide some performance improvements, and he is well aware of this issue. So the key information that you need to know is the game is planned for release in May. I have been talking quite extensively with the developer who is working on this game, with Avalon Digital, and he is an extremely passionate individual. He's talked through the AI improvements with me, the different campaigns that will be in the game, and honestly, he is one of life's true gentlemen, a very, very nice guy, so I really appreciate him spending time to talk to me. So there we go guys, that's my preview of NATO's Nightmare, a brand new wargame by Strategy Game Studios. I think it's going to be an absolute monster and an evolution in the SGS series. If you're interested in the SGS series, I will leave a link to my other videos in the description. Also, check out their website where you can back a number of their new and speculative projects. As soon as they get enough backers, they put the game into development, and they have some very exciting titles on the way. You know, I'm not going to hint at anything, Avalon, but I'm pretty excited about Indochina, so let's get that one in production. So as always, make sure to like, comment and subscribe, get behind the SGS Games, try some out for yourself, watch some of the videos and leave some comments. I've been Luke from LT Gaming, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.